are on episode 18. This is Anna Dornier, and I am with
Mubarak and Sakareje.
Awesome. So, did you know this is a topic that you suggested we have, right? And I love this. It's definitely a different way of looking at things, and it was a perspective shift for me when we started talking about this, like how you wanted to talk about this topic. So, did you know that having favorites actually limits your experience?
Mhm.
I mean, wow. It has something to do with the recent episode that we did on the path to progression. So it's one of those, if you haven't read, why would I keep saying read? Reading is like in our etheric field, I guess. If you haven't watched or listened to that, that's definitely a good one. So tell us about this, why you wanted to talk about this today, Mubarak. Why do we want to avoid favorites?
Honestly, I'm yet to do some deep research on this, but over my life experience, I kept finding that our favorites, it's another language that we use that holds our potential, right?
Mm,
It limits us in a sense of that, yes, this is my favorite. So as soon as you name it your favorite, you just close all possibilities of another experience,
yeah.
because whatever comes, you're like, no, I already have my favorite, right? And this used to be especially in the personal development arena, right? Where we say, oh, this is my favorite book. This is my favorite mentor. This is my favorite teacher, right? Then I'm like, how true is it, right? What information are you not telling us,
Yeah.
right? Because sooner you find out that no, favorites, yes, if you have them, go sit down and think about it. What journey led you to conclude that that's your favorite? And you having a favorite, what's limiting? What limit have you said that now you can't experience something? And here, if you're like me, you have a favorite, something's going to come up and say, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
But you have zero experience of that new information that just came in. But if you're opened to possibilities, to new experience, to new opportunities, and you said, you know what? Okay, let me check it out and see. And this also, the town I'm in here in Canada, Manitoba, Winnipeg, it's a famous city for restaurants, right?
Mhm.
It's per capita, we have more restaurants than any other city in Canada, right?
Wow.
So it's very known, and they say if you can't make a restaurant work in Winnipeg, you'll never make it anywhere. So that's a thing, right? So we Winnipeggers, we love going out there and trying new things. Now, you can see just from that as a metaphor how you can learn into a problem when you say, hey, this is my best sushi press ever.
Yeah.
Huh. What if you haven't tried all the sushi presses in Winnipeg? You cannot say that,
Right.
because then next time Mubag's gonna come, oh my god, I just experienced this press. They have really good sushi. No, but stop it. This press is the best one because it has my favorite sushi. But what information are you basing on,
Yeah.
right? Yes. So that's why I say favorite, it can be a misleading, because have you tried all other things? Because remember, there's nothing is 100%. If you have watched some of our previous sessions, you have seen that in the episode that we shared, there's nothing 100%. There will always be 99, 87, depending what. But also, if it's true and you haven't tested 99 of it, what makes you conclude that it's your favorite?
Right. It
No.
also goes on that same example. When you go to a specific restaurant or cuisine or whatever, let's say that like last night we just had Thai food,
Mhm.
right? If you typically it's like I typically would get like specific dishes within that cuisine, right? So it's like I like red curry the best, right?
Mhm.
So like I judge the Thai restaurant based on the kind of red curry that they serve, right? If it's really good, like I'm a good judge of it because I've had other curries in the past, right? But if I just limit myself, like this is my favorite Thai dish, right, then I won't be able to try all the other stuff, which could be equally amazing as well, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
limits the experience.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you talked about growth versus fixed mindsets when it comes to favorites. Talk a little bit more about that.
Because when you look at it, the favorite is a fixed mindset. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's my favorite. You're fixed.
Yeah.
There is no room for another experience. All
Yes.
right. But also, very funny, there is always opposites to something. What's the opposite of a favorite?
Your most disliked something.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
What that has done to you too, where
Yeah.
you have, oh no, I'll never eat let's say, like, what's another thing, like, from using a restaurant example. Yes, oh, I'll never go back to Chinese restaurant because their rice, oh my god, was the worst rice I have ever had. Huh? The worst rice you have ever had? How much rice have you ever had to conclude that it's the worst?
Right.
Yes, it may be worst to your experience at that moment, but it's not the worst
Yeah.
until you open up and go experience more. You're still on a fixed mindset. A growth mindset says, huh, what's more there? If this is test this much good, what could be there, right?
Yeah.
Let's explore. Oh my God, I can't wait to beat this standard.
Yeah.
What could you can you imagine just living that way? Let's say, even from a restaurant point of view, you go and had the best red curry, and you're like, oh my God, this is different. This is really good. I
Yeah.
wonder if there's any other chef there who can beat this.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
Just think about it. So where Mubak just says, oh, this is my favorite. And they tell him, oh, there's this new chef. What? No. That one, no, you guys, you have no idea. Mine is the favorite. You see, it's how this fixed mindset works.
Yeah.
And this applies to everything, right? It comes when it comes to learning. I recently had a saying someone said, that's why I ask you what's the opposite of a favorite. Said, when you're a student, which I believe every human being on this planet, you are a student of life because there's so much life is teaching you every single moment that you're breathing, right?
Definitely.
When you are a student of life, he said that if you're a student, you can't say, this teacher is bad, I'm not going to learn from them. That could be the worst decision you ever made. Yes,
Yeah.
they may have things on them that you may disagree with, but the knowledge they have, it may be the breakthrough that you need to go to the next level.
Yeah.
So, but putting that again, fixing versus limited mindset, a growth mindset, that's the same thing. But
Yeah.
a growth mindset, a guy who knows that there is no favorite, there is no bad, there is no worst, saying, oh, this is the worst teacher I've ever met, and I'm not going to learn from them. He knows that there's nothing 100. It's just one element. So the favorite thing you're saying, it's just one tiny piece of the puzzle that you're concluding of everything,
Yeah.
right? But when you remove it, the possibilities is unlimited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So this kind of makes me think of traveling too. And you shared an article with me as far as like, parents with kids not wanting to travel because kids just add a lot more responsibility when you travel, right? And I like that, being able to go outside of like the typical like tourist destinations, countries, and having that bias towards like countries that have a reputation, to be unsafe or whatever, right? And not many people have gone there. And so like, the collective consciousness around like what it actually means to be there, right? And experience that specific culture, whether that's like in the Middle East or something like that, like how that actually looks like versus what you just like hear from people, right? So I love that. Like, so for example, in our next country that we're going to visit Romania. Like, we don't know what's in Romania, right? I know a few friends from Romania. We don't even know how their food tastes like, right? We don't even, I mean, there's a lot of things we don't know about Romania, but like, and we couldn't have considered it because it's like in an Eastern European country, not many people have gone to Eastern European countries. Most people, when they visit Europe, they stay in like the Western side, Italy, France, Germany, all that stuff. But again, if we kind of stuck with that, like, oh, we're just going to stay in Western Europe and we're just going to explore like the most popular countries or whatever, we could miss out on what could be something amazing in Romania.
Yes. Fun
Yeah.
enough that you say that. I remember we have a mutual person that me and I were talking, and I told them that your next destination is Romania. He said, Romania? What? Why would she choose Romania? Like, what's in Romania? What's special about Romania? I'm like, here is a person who already made up his mind, who have never been to Romania.
Exactly.
The funny thing. I'm like, if it was someone who has explored Romania and now he's giving me that, I was like, oh, now I'm listening. Please give me, why do you think she shouldn't go to Romania? But here you are, you have never been to Romania, but because information out there, maybe someone who dislikes it because for whatever reason, he went there and had a bad experience for whatever million reason that could be, right? Because we still have bad experiences in North America, for God's sake, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
can you conclude that these things is like that? So you can see that the favorite, we're using the word favorite as just to summarize everything, but it could be on the other side, because here is someone who have never been to Romania, who maybe doesn't even know where to look at it on the map. He has built up this notion of what Romania is and why it's a bad place to be, and you
Yeah,
have never been there, right?
right, right.
Wow, wow. For example, we're talking about area, and you're talking about the experiences you have seen in uh, uh, in Europe in general, like
Yeah,
in UK, in Portugal, where you have been, and you're like, Mubarak, I would never have thought about these things
yeah,
because you had your own favorites,
yes,
right? In North America, and you didn't have a comparison, but now you're like, wait a minute, is this the same thing? Is it now you have a new favorites,
right,
right? For
definitely.
whatever reason, right? But if you change your mindset, says, no, this is not my favorites. This is a new standard, right? Who
Yeah,
can challenge it? Let me go in Romania. Let me be curious, because that's what life is all about. Let me be curious and let me go find out what Romania has for me. And then
yeah,
you go there, you're like, oh my goodness. And I know because I have had some people who have been in Romania who have shared with me amazing story about Romania, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I can't wait. So the same thing. So from the listeners and those who are watching us, what's your next Romania? What's your
Mm,
next favorite, right? But what if you can say, no, it's not my favorite. It's my new standard, right? And
yeah.
being a new standard, it's not set.
Hmm.
It will always be challenged, because remember, growth comes from a challenge. You gotta change. It comes from the word change. So you can't want growth and without expecting change, right? So if you have a favorite, you can't change, you can't grow because you already sealed it.
Yeah,
So from a food perspective, you're testing buds, you have killed them. Now you have set them up that they only experience that favorite. But when you open up and you start experiencing new places and go test another food, you give your test buds a new experience and they're like, wait a minute. Now, Mubarak, you just set another standard. you
yeah,
know Keep challenging that new norm, right? You keep growing, because that's what all life is all about. It's about growth, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You keep talking about food, I'm getting hungry. So this is something I realized recently. So I love steaks, right? And so if there's like a great restaurant, well, if there's a steak anywhere, like I would probably get it. And I used to have this really, really favorite steak restaurant in San Francisco, and I would judge all steaks from that standard, like you said, right? And we went to the steak restaurant in Porto, in Portugal. Oh my gosh. It blew everything out of the water. Seriously, like I don't even know how they cook the steak, because like, when you ask for medium rare, it actually comes out medium rare. And because sometimes they overcook it, right? And that's like the worst for me. That's my preference. But like, even my husband, who doesn't like the fat on a ribeye steak, he ate the fat because it tasted so good. It like literally melts in your mouth. And
Wow.
I was like, okay, this is the new standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you see? Fun enough, I'm glad how you just said this is the new standard. It's
Yeah.
not a favorite.
Right.
No,
Right.
it's the new standard. What do we know about standards? Can be upgraded.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
I love that. So
it's
favorites versus standards. That should be the
yeah,
title of this episode.
yeah. No, standards can be upgraded,
Yeah,
right? Because we all have standards, but sometimes, hey, you find out that no, this standard no longer works for you. You
yeah,
upgrade your standard, right?
yeah,
It's a common language we hear about people saying, oh, he's on another standard, right? So you shouldn't really, if you're a human being growing every day, can you imagine staying on the same standard?
yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
not for you. You gotta challenge it and go to the new level. If you have been praying at bronze level, bronze gold, bronze medal, you gotta aim to go to have gold, right? And if you have one gold, be like Mike. What's Michael? Mike Phillips. Say, you know what? I'm gonna have now. I got the gold, but it's not enough. I'm gonna have 10 golds from this competition. That's a new standard.
yeah,
He sets a standard so high for
yeah,
himself and for some people around him, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So don't get comfortable.
yeah.
Favorite gives comfort,
It's a
and
comfort.
yes, and comfort is death of growth,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah,
don't go together. Comfort doesn't go with growth. So if you want growth, set some standards.
yeah, definitely. There's so many examples we can talk about in this just topic alone, but it I put on our notes for this episode, personality versus your truth.
Mm,
Right? Because personality, to me, a lot of people think personality is like that's just who you are and that's who you've always been. It's not changeable, but it's
mm,
very malleable
mm,
personality, right? We do that with our clients, opening them up to the different possibilities that they can be in Alpha Academy, right? And um, but a lot of people don't think that way.
no.
They think this is how I was raised, this is how I've always been, this is just who I am. You just got to deal with it,
Mm,
And again, you're going back to that point that you made earlier, where it's like you're just stuck in that personality that you've created for yourself, thinking that you're just going to be like that and there's nothing you can do about it. But in truth, right, you are the creator of your universe, and um, you have this conscious mind that you can
mm,
control, that no
mm,
other animal in the animal kingdom besides human beings have, that you
mm,
can literally direct, right,
mm,
and be able to reprogram,
mm.
right? So let's talk a little bit about that personality versus your truth.
Yeah, and we have had great teachers that have came before us, right? And there's great people who are expert on these topics that I want to give credit to. And one of them is Dr. Dispenser, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
one of our favorite teacher, right? And man, that guy really challenges the new norm, right? Because again, he's setting some standards compared to what we thought was impossible, right? When I remember this, I remember a story a long time ago, maybe I don't know how long ago, but when the doctors and scientists had came and said a human being cannot learn, what was it? Is it 4 miles or something in under a minute, right? Uh, yes, I don't
don't
remember
know
exactly.
actual numbers. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know the actual numbers myself, but the whole world had came to agreement that no, 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 it's impossible. Human beings, now, based on what we know, no. And guess what? Someone came from nowhere, boom, hit that record. And
Yeah.
guess what happened? He didn't only become the only one until today. People have broke that record. The
Yeah.
record, people decide to say that they can't break it. So what does it tell you about personality then?
Yeah.
So you as a being, right? And we talked about in a previous episode here, which says about how experience is unique. There's no two people can experience anything. Why is that? Because it's the truth,
Yeah.
right? So when you understand that there's nothing like you, there's nothing will ever come on this planet like you, and nobody, no scientist who can study you enough to know that you're safe, because as you evolve, as you're setting new standards, so many things are going to change. And Dr.
Yeah.
Dispenza tells us that when you come and say, oh, this is my genetics, my grandfather had this and this, is stop it. Stop
Yeah.
telling yourself that. You know,
Yeah.
he explains to you how, with your thoughts, with the way you think, says you are only limiting yourself to the new potential. You can create a new personality
Yeah.
completely opposite from what you are today, what you think that, oh, this is what my grandfather gave me, and this is this, or we only do things this way, or we are cast, or we only, my grandfather had heart attacks, so me too, it's just a matter of time I'm going to have heart attack. I hear those horror stories,
Yeah.
right? But it's not true.
Yeah.
There's the truth. The truth is your unlimited being. You can transform your life. Yes, it's going to require work. Yes, it's going to require you setting some standards,
Hmm.
right? Not your favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the genes too, right? Like there's a science now called epigenetics where they're showing how we can influence our genes. And a lot of people think before even epigenetics came around that genes are just you don't have control over them. Like it's just what you've been handed down and that's it. Right. But now the science of epigenetics shows like what you actually think, the environment and all that stuff, and how you can influence that. Right. And so there's nothing that's so set that you can change it. Maybe your height, you can change your height in certain features, physical features, but it's anything that's like malleable, like your physiology, how your cells respond to the environment that you provide for them, like those we can have control over, right?
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that also Dr. Dispenza is literally studying and providing scientific evidence around
Yeah.
that, right? Which wait, maybe we can just talk about one more example about, because we're both parents, right? About our children's individuality, right? And how like you can't play favorites with your
No.
kids. And we've talked about like we don't really have favorites. Like my daughter will always ask, because she's the competitive one, right? And she would ask, like, who's your favorite? It's like, I don't have a favorite. Like, 'cause she wants me to say that she's my favorite, of course.
Of course. Of
I don't have
course.
a favorite
Mhm.
because you're so different. And if
Mhm.
you're a parent, you'll realize your kids are so different, even though they came from the same two parents, um, same environment, right? Because most of them grow up in the same house, right? Most of them have their own individuality, their own interests, and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
let's talk about that from your perspective.
Yeah, based on everything we said in this episode from the beginning and this moment, it really built up because when you just had a newborn baby, can you say that this is my kid's personality, my my baby's personality, or you are going to be in a war seeing how your daughter or son changes every single month, every single week, like as he's forming different ways, right? Like for example, I look at example, my youngest, my son, right? From the get-go, when he was born until today, he still amazes me. And I cannot tell you, I can only from my frame of reference, oh, so oh, my kid may be this, but every time he proves me wrong. It's like,
Yeah.
no, he's like, wow, he has another level of like you still like, now can I, what a worst things to do to limit his potential to say, oh, this is my son's personality. Can you do that if you're a parent? If you do, I highly recommend that you think about it. because
Yeah.
you could be limiting your child's ability because you have no idea what's going to happen in next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the environment he's in, depending on his gifts and talents and his unique ability, that
Yeah.
thing that makes him that
Yeah.
nobody else in his bloodline has, right? Because my son, he's the only boy and we have other 3 girls, right? But opposite, people say, oh, because he's a boy. I'm like, okay, he's a boy, but still, that's another thing. He's different. Now we look at 3 girls that I have, you're like, excuse me, who are your parent? Who are your parent? Who are your parent? Because they're all completely different from each other,
Yeah.
right? Funny, I had a guest the other day and she came and she told my youngest daughter, 9 months, she says, oh, you're gonna be a speaker, right? And kudos for her. And she's like, huh, that what's a speaker? I thought a speaker is the one we use to listen things from YouTube or things like that. I'm like, oh, honey, you have a long way to figure out what a speaker is. I didn't tell her what it is. I just kept him curious. But that's see, guess what? Another guest may come and say, oh my God, this your kid, she has some leadership in her, right? Some person, people defining them differently, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why you can't limit. And
Mhm.
you can see that, Anna, most of the challenges that we're in today, it's because of those limiting things that we were conditioned and put on us, right? Oh,
Really.
you're this way, that's the way you are, you never change, and this and that, right? But how many times do we get approved, like get what's the right word, and you find out that what you thought is opposite.
Yeah. Confirmation. Yeah.
Yes, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Confirmation.
definitely. And I think this is very important as a topic for parents as well, right? That because I hear a lot, especially I think in the Asian culture too,
Mhm.
right? Like let's say Filipinos tend to become nurses, right? Like you'll see a lot of nurses, Filipino nurses, right? Or you'll see a lot of Vietnamese people going into dentistry, right? Because that's what like the cultural norm expects you to be, right? Oh, you're Vietnamese, you should go to dental school. You're Filipino, you should go to nursing school, right? And I think that's where like the conflict happens a lot with parents thinking that this is what their kids should be doing versus having this kind of ongoing conversation and relationship with their kid. And it's like, what is it that you really want?
Mhm.
Right. So like for example with our kids, we've homeschooled them from the very beginning. And one of the things that I tell them is like, you don't have to go to college if you don't want to go to college. College is not the only way to like, be great at life and get a great job.
Yeah,
So it's
and
like, yeah, go ahead.
I want to add something right there, what you said. Unfortunately, Anna, there is some parents who right now who may be pissed at you, who say, how dare you tell your children that then they can't go to university? Do you see now the favorite thing? The university is their favorite. Like it's
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
only path. It's the
yeah,
only path for the right. But is it?
yeah,
It's a question, right? And
yeah,
when you drop that and really, if you really care about your children's future or yourself future, how did you come to determine that university is the only path?
yeah.
Is it you did your own remember if you have watched previous episode, sorry, oh, there you go. If you watched the previous episode, we talked about knowledge. So that knowledge you have, that information you have about, oh, university, the past, it's just knowledge. But have you experienced it?
Yeah,
Have you experienced that it's the only path?
right.
And then where do you getting that understanding,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yeah,
then when really you open up and you start looking at other things, not playing favorites, that university is your favorite, right? And say, oh, wait a minute, there's this, there's this, there's this other possibilities. So me as a parent, my job is to bring those other paths in front of her, expose them to her, like what you're
Yes.
doing with children. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing, exposing them to the other new experiences. And oh my God, I can't wait to meet your daughter and your son in the next 5 years, because they're getting experience and understanding that no university can give them. And forget
Yes.
it. Yeah. So I just wanted to plug that in there.
Yeah, definitely. It's so, I think it's important for a lot of parents to understand that individuality. And also for parents themselves to see that individuality is what makes them who they are, right? And it's usually when you understand what makes you you, is when you start to find your mission and your purpose,
Mhm.
right? So good. We can talk more a little bit about this, but I think this is probably where we can end. So this has been Organic Reach X.
We show you how to go with the flow organically in your business.
Awesome. We'll see you next time.